Welcome to a new edition of The Perspective. Well, history has recorded incredible acts of sacrifice, like stories heard about people during 9/11 or in the aftermath of hurricanes, floods, forest fires, wars, famines. Today on the program, in ancient times, serving and sacrifice were not part of the zeitgeist. In fact, humility and servanthood were signs of great weakness. And it's safe to say that times haven't changed all that much. While all of us are called to sacrifice in different ways throughout our lifetimes, the idea that to sacrifice is to live fully is a complex idea for today's society, and it's certainly not an easy thing to do, even for those we love. Today on the program, Mike and Julie talk about the power of example. Journalist and media consultant Lorna Dueck shares her insights into how changes in our health can require sacrifice. Find out why profound shifts in attitude toward it are needed at all levels for a better tomorrow.
Hey, welcome to the program today. I'm Mike Sherbino. Delighted you're with us. We got an exciting lineup for you today. And as usual, my amazing co-host, Julie Stautland, is with us. Julie, good to see you today.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I like the brass buttons. That looks pretty cool.
Thank you, thank you.
If I'd only known, I would have tried to match up, but
well,
I don't have an outfit
time.
like that. You had an interesting experience last week. Tell us about it.
Oh, well, I had a day that everything decided not to work. My truck decided to act up, and before it did, my computer broke down, and while I was trying to get it fixed, the alarm of the truck went off, my dog got out of the house, and then the alarm of the truck kept going off all day, and I finally had to get
One of those annoying alarms.
I finally had to get out of the neighborhood before, I became that neighbor.
You became that neighbor. Well, I'm glad that happened to you and not to me.
What about you? What was?
Well, yesterday was a key day. I mean, I was excited about it. I was kind of dreading it, but I went back to playing hockey.
You did?
Pursuing my professional hockey career.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But the night before, it's been a year with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you can appreciate this. You don't have boys, but all the people that are listening today on the program that have men and boys or ladies that play hockey, because I have a granddaughter that plays hockey and
Good
a daughter.
for her.
Yeah, it's exciting. I pulled out the hockey gear.
Oh, boy.
I hadn't opened the bag in a year.
Oh, no.
Our garage started to levitate, and you had noise with your truck. Wow, the neighbors, I think they were wondering what was happening.
They're still plugging their noses?
And then I got to the rink. I went to Wayne Gretzky's rink in
yeah?
Brantford. That was exciting.
Oh, did you let them know you were playing?
No, I didn't let Wayne know this time.
No?
No, you see this pencil?
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of like how my body was feeling. It just kind of wasn't working too well yesterday.
No?
Yeah, kind of like the whole thing just kind of, fell apart.
You weren't very flexible?
I'm going to send the video next week.
Oh, that would be a good
I
idea.
did score a goal.
Yeah.
I did score a goal.
Did you?
Yeah, the goalie had left the ice, but I did score the goal. So anyways, hey, we're glad you're back with us today. And those are true life experiences as we live. At least I live out of my incredible imagination. Today, we're talking about people who are making a difference. We're talking about acts of sacrifice. And I think all of us could fill this, the program with stories of people who've made a difference. Julie, you've got an amazing story of someone out of the war.
I do. I found this story from John Robert Fox, and he was a second lieutenant in the Second World War. He was sent to Italy, and he was stationed there, and it was overrun with Nazis, and the Americans were going to lose this battle, and he found a place to hide in the second level of a house, and he radioed in and said, "Shoot." And the gunner said, "Right here?" And he's like, "Shoot, right here, directly these coordinates." And he thought he made a mistake. He goes, "No, you need to shoot right here." And he said, "Fire, there's more of them than there are of us." And he completely sacrificed himself
So he laid
right
his
there
life
and
down.
then. Yep.
Well, stories like that impact me because my dad did 27 years with the Canadian Army.
Oh, wow.
There's so many stories of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking, though, in the whole context of sacrifice even in marriage. We have an exciting guest with us today, don't we?
Yes, we do. After the break, our next guest, I'm happy to call a very good friend. When we come back, Mike's interview with one incredible example, journalist Lorna Dueck.
Well, today's guest is a friend of ours who has been the CEO of Crossroads Christian Communication. She has had her own program, which was syndicated for 25 years. She is a writer. She is a leader par excellence. And I am delighted to have Lorna Dueck with us today in the studio. Thanks, Lorna, for joining us.
And congratulations on your wonderful new program, Mike. We just need more of Mike, so this is great.
Well, thank you. We're just trying to follow the example that you've blazed for so many people. And we're going to get to that in a moment. But what a lot of people don't realize is that actually where the studio is in a place called North End Church. And about 3 years ago, I came here and we reopened in this building. It was a place where you had gone to church as a young girl. Tell us about that.
Well, how fascinating to walk into your studio like earlier this summer and see what was being built there. But that church, North End Church, was a Mennonite Brethren church where I have my earliest memories of standing on that silver painted floor, having Sunday school, doing faithful, getting blessed by the faithful work of volunteers there. Pioneer Girls, it was a great thing on Wednesday nights, youth group. I was really discipled and mentored through that church, taken through some rocky times, and then married there. Vern and I have been married 42 years, and we were married there. And in that gym, which has now been transformed into a television studio, because churches don't use gyms anymore.
Right.
It's awesome to see it be a TV studio, because that is where the world meets, is in media. And but that's where we had our wedding reception, and the ladies of the church helped. And yeah, I count 7 different organizations as having been a huge part of me coming to discover a relationship with Jesus Christ. And
let's talk about that.
Was that.
And we're excited just for the transformation that is happening here. And you're going to have to come and preach some Sunday for me as well. So that's all good.
I have had the chance to preach in your church, and it was just a really great place for the growth of so many families, so many of our families.
Lorna, it seems strange with me interviewing you because you've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. You left your game as CEO, kind of like Jerry Seinfeld when he stepped down from his program. You're right at the top. And it just was exciting, all that was happening and the leadership you were giving to Crossroads and to Huntley Street and Yes TV. Tell us why you stepped down.
Well, a disability hit our family. 1 in 5 Canadians face a disability. And for us, it was Parkinson's disease. And Mike and Julie, it's a very baffling disease. It has 36 different symptoms at least. They all interact differently depending on different people, different days, different circumstances. And we could see, as we were heading into year 6 of Parkinson's disease, my husband Vern was diagnosed at just 58 years old with Parkinson's disease. And by year 6, we could see that this disease was doing what it is projected to do. So he had already sold his business. He had gone into early retirement. Fortunately, he was a financial planner, and this is why we should not neglect our financial futures, because you do not know if disease is going to be part of.
How did you make the decision, Lorna? How did your family weigh in, your daughters? Tell us about that journey, because that had to be a significant part of the equation.
Well, I have always had a practice of going away and being alone with God for 1 or 2 or 3 days a year, where nobody talks to me except, I hope, God. I just disappear. And I borrow some friend's cottage, or I go find a retreat center. And I had gone away for one of those. And I had sensed at that time that God had given me a date further down the road. But our kids did come home to visit. Our adult kids came home to stay with us for a couple of weeks. And they saw our home in different eyes. They saw their father in different eyes.
They brought a different perspective.
Saw what the disease was doing. And it was our kids who said, I think you need to move your retirement date up, Mom. I think Dad really needs more of you. And so then Vern and I went away on a little break. And we talked about that. And yeah, it was just, and you know, I'm so glad I jumped and moved when the family leading was, we need less stress in our life. We need more presence. You know, as you know, in media, we're good because we can jump and change and do things and take 100 phone calls at once. Well, that does not suit Parkinson's disease at all.
Right.
So it was time to change.
Julie's going to join us in the conversation right now, and I'd love for you just to talk about this whole new role and all the different things you're doing, and tell us how Vern is doing as well.
All right. Well, Vern is different every day. I talked to him about this interview, and we love our Parkinson's support group. And I want to say anyone watching can join. Just go online and register your name with PD, Parkinson's disease, pdavengers.com. Because what we're trying to see happen at that global community is for people to say, look, this is a disease that's hitting 1 in 15 people. Canada has more than double the rate of it in the world, and more attention needs to be given to it. So PD Avengers, like the superheroes Avengers, just sign up, because what we're trying to show to government is there's a lot of people concerned about Parkinson's disease. And I know it's affected families that you know. Everybody listening probably knows somebody who has been affected by Parkinson's disease. So Vern is doing his best with it. We really work at being exercise conscious. Like that's one of the things we know will help Parkinson's disease, one of the few things other than medication. And so, but your muscles change, the dopamine flowing through your body from your brain to your muscles, it changes, it delays, it stops. So he's had some rough bumps. He broke 6 ribs when his just stopped flowing, and he blacked out completely. So that was this summer. So I got to keep my eye on him.
Right. You know, Lorna, I've known you for several years, and you've always been such an incredible encourager. And I'm always fascinated to know someone who's been such a trailblazer, someone who's had such an impact in society. Who was behind that person who brought them to that point? Who encouraged you, in other words? Who was it that really modeled the example to you and helped develop you into the person that you have been and are and continue to be?
Well, I have a great story about Vern. When Mike, that church that I grew up in was Mennonite at that time, and that meant we were like super homemakers. And so when I was a young bride 42 years ago, I would sew and I would can and I would do all these things. And I remember putting on an outfit once, and Vern taking a look at it that I had sewn, and he said, "Honey, why don't you just go write a story?" Because he knew I was a journalist. And so Vern that was 40 years ago, and he always structured his life that he could see me soar in my journalism and my leadership. Wow. And so it was awesome. So it's really a beautiful thing to live in sickness and in health, to live those vows out. It's not always easy for either of us. Right. We both were very independent people, and we're not now.
Wow. That is a wonderful story. What an encouragement. Thank you so much, Lorna, for being with us today and sharing from your heart, and really appreciate it. And I know it's going to speak to a lot of people.
Yeah, Lorna, thank you. Right. Thank you so much.
All the best with the program, guys. All the best.
Stay with us. Up next, The Word with Mike and the Power of Example.
I often like to tell people that 4 of my best years I spent in the 3rd grade. That's because I flunked art class. Folks, I cannot draw. Matter of fact, I can't even do stick figures, following along with the little pencil. I don't know, I'm kind of into pencils today. But regardless of that, what I could do is that if somebody had the image in front of me, I could trace it, especially if it was really dark. Remember that paper we'd put over top and I could trace the image? I would be so proud of myself. I discovered that in life, more often than not, we are looking for an image. We are looking for something that we can trace, something that we can follow. Maybe we call it a model. Something beautiful about the power of example. And in life, you and I need a model that we can follow. I think that the story of Lorna, as she's been sharing today with her husband Vern, as we see that marriage model working and saying, we're going to make this priority. We're going to make this marriage work regardless of what life is throwing at us. God's strength is going to be more than enough. I know for Lorna, as I know for myself, and perhaps many of you that are watching today, though, the strength that we need, the example to follow, is found in none else than Jesus himself. And as we journey on in the book of Philippians today, I want to take you to chapter 2. And we have an incredible passage that I want to read to you because we need a model. And that greatest model is Jesus. It says, think of yourselves the way Christ Jesus thought of himself. He had equal status with God, but didn't think so much of himself that he had to cling to the advantages of that status no matter what. Not at all. When the time came, he set aside the privileges of deity and he took on the status of a slave. He became human. And having become human, he stayed human. It was an incredibly humbling process. He didn't claim special privileges. Instead, he lived a selfless, obedient life and then died a selfless, obedient death, and the worst kind of death at that, a crucifixion. You see, what we find in this story is a picture of God coming in the flesh. He came as Jesus, the very Son of God. And we see Jesus pouring himself out to us to be the example that he wants us to be as we represent him, but also as we do life together. I think if there's 2 things we can draw from the passage is that Jesus is calling you and I to be a servant. Now, the word servant doesn't sit well with me. Years ago, I went to pastor a church in Vancouver, and it was near in the town of Tsawwassen, where the ferries go over to the Gulf Islands. Beautiful Boundary Bay was there, and I would go down to there quite often, and I got to know a lady who had the food kiosk. Her name was Esther. My wife and I would talk to her so often, and she also would do dinner parties for people, and one day she was doing a wedding. She said, I don't have any staff to come and help me today. And I looked at my wife and I volunteered us both. And so we put on the black garb, you know, the black pants, the white shirt, and we went and we waited on the tables. But the people, they weren't that nice. They didn't appreciate the fact that I had a couple degrees and a doctorate. They didn't even ask. They just were very demanding, saying, would you come? Would you bring this? Would you do this? And once I got ticked off. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I say, hey, you know, I'm well educated and qualified. And the guy looked at me as if to say, yeah, you know what? And you're not the Pope either. But as we just journeyed through that experience, God showed so much about what I didn't like inside of me, that I didn't like being a servant. Because a servant means being sensitive to the needs of other people. It means being on call 24/7. It means saying, Jesus, you have the right to live through me and to walk through me. When that happens and we start to serve each other, thinking today, especially of the context of marriage, radical transformation can happen. Are you open to that opportunity today? Are you open to being the person that God wants you to be? Because it also means being humble. You can serve someone if you're forced to. But humility is a choice. And Jesus chose to empty himself of the rights of deity, to come to earth, to live in the flesh, and to serve us, and ultimately to go to the cross that we might find new life and hope. And it's that strength that changes and challenges our lives, because emptiness, when we empty ourselves of ourselves and we become obedient to what God is calling us to do, the result is purpose-filled living. It's what we've seen actually today in Lorna and Vern in that relationship as well. What does it mean for you today to humble yourself, to be a servant? Julie's going to weigh in on that thought. What are you thinking about as we're sharing the truth today?
Well, being willing to be inconvenienced. I know that we get so self-absorbed, we get so focused on what our schedule is, that the idea of being inconvenienced, like you're pulling me away from something that I want to do or I have to do, and I feel like, but am I going to do it with an open heart, a willing heart, a loving heart, or am I going to dig my heels in and go, I don't really want to help you?
And I think one of the things, Julie, is that sometimes we say, okay, I can do it for today.
Right.
But when it's day
The
after
long
day
haul.
after day.
The long haul.
And we need to think about that.
That's really important. Who are we going to be in the long haul? You know, how are we going to affect people's lives?
You know, the beauty of this passage is that Jesus was committed to the long haul.
Yes.
He went to the cross. And it says in the book of Hebrews, who for the joy set before him, he endured the cross.
Yeah.
And my hope, my prayer is that as you're watching today, that you will know the strength of God in your life, that he will be there for you for the long haul.
When we come back, a group of Canadians who deal with Parkinson's and their pledge to never give up.
I think one of the things that's so important to me in this program is that we deal with the nitty-gritty of life. And Julie, as we're talking about Parkinson's disease, we're talking about the scripture where Jesus emptied himself, say, how does it all fit together? What I see in this passage is an incredible example about how we do life together, not just as individuals, but as husband and wives. People are in relationships and many times they're dissatisfied because these two ingredients are missing. You know, the idea of being a servant and being humble. You talked about that, the inconvenience of life, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And, you know, I look at my own marriage and the fact that, in sickness and health, when you say that, if my husband actually understood what he was saying when he said that, he might have backed out, because I've had so many things dealing with sickness throughout the life, and he's made so many sacrifices for my benefit in order to help me with what I was dealing with. It was completely inconveniencing him all the time, and I can't be more thankful for what he did and the journey that we've done together.
That in itself could probably be an entire show.
Yeah.
But I think one of the interesting sidebars of that is that as we are coming through this COVID time, people are really struggling with, I got to catch up for lost time.
Right.
And it's almost like we're leaving others in the wake. We don't have time to care for other people. Right. And one of the big concerns that I have and that others have raised is we are becoming very narcissistic. It's all about me. It's all about myself. Which is contrary to the teaching of Jesus. And as you're watching today, I want to encourage you to struggle with that. I want to encourage you to push back, because if you think the joy is found in everything that you do to make yourself happy, at the end of the day, you're going to be so empty. Julie, you know as well as I do that both you and your husband, Tor, have found, giving yourself to other acts of kindness and helping people has been so fulfilling, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. From individual lives to group organizations, it's impacted us a lot. But I wanted to take us now to a really powerful story about Parkinson's. And the Parkinson's disease affects 1 in every 500 people in Canada. Over 100,000 Canadians are living with Parkinson's today, and approximately 6,600 new cases of Parkinson's are diagnosed each year. Take a look at this PSA from Parkinson's Canada.
I was diagnosed,
When I was diagnosed,
When I was diagnosed, I felt sad,
Afraid.
confused,
angry.
alone, stunned.
When I was diagnosed, I felt like crying, and I did.
Imagine you're told
You'll slowly decline.
You will find it hard to recall words.
you'll begin to shake.
This will never go away.
Nothing prepares you for Parkinson's.
nothing.
But no matter what they say, or how many times you're asked,
What's wrong with you?
What's taking so long?
Why are you shaking?
Are you drunk?
Life goes on,
no matter what,
No matter what. No matter what.
no matter what.
no matter what.
So I made a choice to make a difference.
Because there is strength in numbers.
There is hope in research.
And there is support.
All around me.
My friends, my family.
My wife.
My Parkinson's community.
And there's acceptance.
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 The journey continues.
I want you to know I will never give up.
I will always be there.
I couldn't do it alone.
I'm gonna say it loud and proud.
Parkinson's matters.
I'm here,
I am here.
I'm here,
I am here.
I'm here,
Trying my best.
And I won't give up.
no matter what.
So I want to speak life into each of you today, regardless of what the journey is that you're on. It might be Parkinson's, it might be some other illness. Maybe it is writing a big test and wondering, how am I going to get through this? Maybe it is just life itself, and the journey of life seems to have hit a lot of curves, and it's thrown a lot of speed bumps your way. As we ponder the scriptures, we're going to get to this beautiful passage in another couple weeks. We come to the book of Philippians, and Paul talks about how he never gave up, how he pressed on. And he said this, I can do all things through Jesus who gives me the strength. And then he said, my God will supply every need of yours according to the riches that we have in Jesus. I want to remind you today, friends, that Jesus is more than enough for your situation. And if you ask him today, he will come and be the leader and Lord of your life. He will bring his forgiveness. He will give you his hope, his joy, and his strength for today and forever.